One day, a Zen master and his disciple was taking a walk. The disciple asked, "Master, how can I attain inner peace?" The master glanced at him and continued on their walk. 5 minutes passed by. The disciple was getting anxious, ready to ask another question, when the master stopped and said, "Do you hear the sound of that mountain stream?" The disciple had not been aware of any mountain stream. He had been too busy thinking about the meaning of Zen. As he begins to listen, his noisy mind subsided. First he heard nothing. Then his thinking gave way to heightened alertness. Suddenly, he heard the murmur of a small stream in the far distance. "Yes, I can hear it now." The master raised his finger with a look in his eye both fierce and gentle, and said, "Enter Zen from there." The disciple was stunned. It was his first satori, a flash of enlightenment. He knew what Zen was without knowing what it was that he knew. Beyond happiness and unhappiness, there is peace. I remember back then when my mind became so polluted with thoughts of my past mistakes. Anxiety was a constant companion for the future. I was living in my mind and drifting away from the present moment. I would always visualize and project visual lies to myself to a better position than my current situation, no matter how rewarding the present moment was. It would never be good enough, or I would mentally label something based from my perception of the past. I would imagine scenarios how my girlfriend would cheat on me just because an ex-girlfriend did 5 years ago, or how I would starve and lose my home if ever I get fired from my job. This is the meaning of identification. This is forgetfulness of being, the primary error, the illusion of absolute separateness that turns reality into a nightmare. Eckhart Tolle. Our mind is an instrument, a complex tool like money in the physical world. Similar to money, you do not let your thoughts define your existence, but rather you use it to your advantage when it is required. Once you understand this beyond explanation, it is the beginning of the end for mind identification, the start of not attaching to a preconceived idea of a person, situation, or self. You meet Stacy as a person, but you look past her race, religion, social status, job, and physical feature. There is only the two intertwined beings connecting in the moment. Nothing more, nothing less. Letting go of mind identification starts when you stop putting labels on anything or everything. Just like a dog that enjoys chewing on a bone, the mind is addicted to thinking and categorizing everything it can, so it can be put into labeled boxes. Once you are able to observe a person, object, or event without pulling from your preconception box, you have acquired satori, meaning seeing into one's true nature, no matter how brief the moment was. One of my favorite ways of breaking free from my thoughts is visualizing my mind in a third-person view, or as Eckhart Tolle teaches, be the silent watcher of your thoughts. When I break free from the compulsive thinking, I add a few more layers to enter the Zen. I put my focus on my breathing, in and out, without narrating the experience in my head, just observing quietly. This puts continuous gaps in the streamline of thinking. I can then enter inside myself. I play around in my inner body, experiencing it like a traveler in a new city. I find myself giggling from the heart on how fascinating it is to be alive in your body consciously. I have entered the now at this point. My senses heighten as my thoughts give way for my Zen state. But far from being in a trance or half asleep, here you are fully awake and highly alert. You are not falling below thinking, but rising above it. In fact, you are so in the moment, you're processing at a remarkable speed compared to your mind-dominated normal state. This is why most often people get their breakthrough idea after a pleasant walk, when their thinking gives way to a higher intelligence. I refer to it as divine wisdom. Something above us that the mind cannot define or even attempt to label. The stillness of being. Quite often people chase this experience their whole lives or look forward to it as some reward only attainable in the high heavens. Some live their lives without it, so they try to fill the gap with money, sex, or power. Others go to extreme that they delude themselves by consuming insane amounts of alcohol and drugs. Maybe, just maybe, they might be thinking, my next high can cover the gap inside me that has been missing since my last memories of happiness. But was it really happiness or just plain pleasure? There are 3 levels of happiness. The first one is pleasure. Most often, people confuse happiness with pleasure when they acquire material possession or are devouring a succulent meal. In Freudian psychoanalysis, the pleasure principle is the instinctual seeking of pleasure and avoiding of pain in order to satisfy biological and psychological needs. But like most pleasure, it is often short-lived, and the absence of it produces emptiness, like a smoker without a cigarette, anxiously waiting for the next high. The second one is happiness. We experience this when we are connected to our positive emotions on a deeper level than pleasure. But we cannot forget that happiness is just an emotion that is a product of external condition. Emotion in Latin is immovere, which means to stir up, stirring up our inner peace. When we are not attached to happiness, its absence does not produce unhappiness anymore and fall into further pain. Now, this does not mean avoiding happiness, rather simply enjoying it when it's there and continuing on with our inner stillness when it subsides. The third one is the ne plus ultra, or ultimate form. The joy of being is the outmost and purest form of what happiness slightly resembles. Though sometimes it is triggered by great beauty or extreme exertion, deep joy can only be manifested when we are continuously in the present moment. Some may catch a glimpse of this, like when an athlete gets in the zone, or a master of their skills and trade are so invested in what they are doing that they experience flow. If you are feeling lightness, ease, and deep joy at the present moment, you can be certain that what you are experiencing is the ne plus ultra, the joy of being. There is space between the trigger and the reaction. If we observe closely in that gap, we can find the power of now, when psychological time, mind identification, mental labeling, and the pain body cannot enter the present moment anymore. You have crossed over to the other shore, acquired Zen, achieved enlightenment, or as stated in the Bible, you become fit for service in the kingdom of God. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. And don't forget, keep going one step higher.